And we've got Kristen here, and we had another open house, and so thank you for always coming out. We appreciate that kind of support. And that should also bode well when you think about the investment that preceptors make and the GVSU students. So thanks. All right, what we're going to do is a couple of things. I've got a program highlight sheet, and I'm going to just talk through that. I will take questions about those topics or anything else at any time, so don't ever worry about if you have a question, but is now the time to ask it, ask. And then we're going to separate you into two groups. Half of you will go with Dr. McClellan, and the other half will go with Professor Ford, and they will take you on a tour of our simulation labs. So if you've been here a little early and you've been watching the slides, what you see are some pictures of mannequins, of a person that looked like they were on a respirator, and you might wonder, did we go into hospital rooms and take that? You'll see that we've got setups exactly like what you would find in ICU or in a clinic, and that's what you'll be able to see on your tour. As Dr. McClellan said, again, very proud of her being the first dietitian to be certified in using simulation in health education. That's huge. When you get to be the first of something in the whole nation, I think that's really speaks well again of the program. The program that you're interested in, hopefully, because you're here, there's only 37 programs like this one in the U.S., and that's because it is a coordination of your supervised practice in the same semesters that you're doing your didactic learning. So you learn and you do in the same semester. Some of the other schools that have been adding master's degrees and tacking them on to dietetic internships have them separated. They have their master's degree, which is pretty siloed, and you take your courses and then you get that done. Then you move over and you do your supervised practice. So that makes our program again a little different, just so that you know what is it that makes the two programs different. It's because of that see and do in the same type of semester. So if you have your curriculum on the back page, just a quick example, that is your first semester. So with that food and culinary science, we do have, it's online for the most part, but we do have 5 laboratories that we do at the beginning of the semester. And right after you finish your laboratories, you move into that supervised practice piece of food management systems. So again, you're learning and you're doing in the same semester. Oftentimes too, assignments in what you would think of as your didactic or more of your lecture class make you go back into your supervised practice to pull the answers. This week on our discussion board, I had my students talk about what kind of budgeting it was used at the places where they did their rotation. That means they had to go back again to the preceptor and ask for a better explanation of the budgeting. So they're learning about it through slides and lecture, and then also getting it firsthand from their preceptors on how they do the budgeting in their particular organization. And that holds true throughout the curriculum. Okay, so you can see that this is laid out to be done in 5 semesters. That is a bit of a change from what we had before, and it's because we lowered the number of credits per semester and added another semester. The reason for that, and Bettina might be able to shed some light on this, is that the course was very fast-paced, and it was, especially as they rolled to the end of the program, it became almost a manic pace. And most of the students didn't have time for employment, and it was just something we needed to address from a stress level of our students. So we did take a big step, and we did reorganize this into 5 semesters. So, Bettina, I don't know if you have anything to contribute.
I think you'll get a lot more out of it. I felt like there were times where I couldn't do my best work, just because there wasn't enough time to get all the boxes checked.
So you can maybe speak to doing a thesis too, and how the stretching might help.
Exactly.
Having that extra semester definitely gives you a little more wiggle room when you're waiting for IRB approvals and legal situations to work out that you actually don't have any control
That's
over.
exactly right. Yeah, thanks for that. So we see that as a plus, not a minus, and I'll bring that up again as we work our way through the sheet. What I wanted to highlight were a couple of things that you don't pay for in this program. You pay your tuition, but if you look at the second bullet point, we have the opportunity for you to earn an interprofessional education certificate And that is at no charge, and it does appear on your transcript. So, Dr. McClellan, you want to talk just a little bit
Sure.
about that?
Yeah, so we have the benefit of being housed within the College of Health Professions here. And so as we take you on a tour, I'll be able to talk to you a little bit more about that. But the real benefit is we can do a lot of interprofessional work and events. These things are already planned and advertised through the College of Health Professions. A lot of them have to do with simulation. And so basically the interprofessional education certificate gives you the opportunity to log your time spent attending those types of events, doing little online modules, doing a presentation, things that you probably would take part in anyway, many of them, but actually you can log them through the IPE certificate program and then earn that certificate by the time you leave. And interprofessional education, interprofessional competencies are becoming more and more widespread as far as being required by dietetics education programs, but also all these other health professions. Because we know that when you get into practice, you really need the ability to communicate with members of an interprofessional team and to know a little bit more about what those other team members do and what their scope of practice is so that you can interact really efficiently. And so I think it's just a good benefit of having, of this program being placed within this College of Health Professions.
I just mentioned too that you have 2 mandatory ones that you have to go to that would qualify two different sessions, workshops that you have to go to that qualify for those hours. So just FYI, you already have about 10 to 16 hours towards this in those 2 workshops that you have to go to.
Right, and going back to having a smaller number of credits per semester allows you that time that you actually can attend some of these IPE certificate bearing activities. So you're able to enhance your time here at GVSU for absolutely no cost to yourself with that certificate noted on your final transcript. The next thing is that we have got multiple, and when I say multiple, that doesn't mean like maybe 5 or 6. We have got
250 sites?
250 practice sites. They're across Michigan all the way into the UP. We've got some now in the Chicago area. We've got a nice little bunch in northern Ohio. We've got some in northern Indiana. So we have lots and lots. And as I hear about your interest, pediatrics, we've got that. That too. That too. Eating disorders, we've got Forest Hills, right? Forest View. So whatever you were mentioning, private practice, we have dietitians who are preceptors that have their own practice, so you can get involved with that. So pretty much anything that you could wish for is probably available through those 240.
Yeah, between, about close to 250, maybe 250.
Practice
People about
sites.
it, yeah.
Yeah, and students always ask, can I just pick which ones I want to go to? So, Professor Baird, would you address that?
Sort of. Yes and no. You can tell me different areas. I give you guys a list of different areas that you're interested in, so pediatrics or private practice. I cannot necessarily guarantee that you will go to Spectrum or to Holland or to St. Mary's. I can guarantee like clinical aspects and stuff. I do try to look at different locations that you're in, but I have had students that say I really am interested in this and it's a top pick, and so if it's your top pick, then I try really hard to place you in there. I do have students that find some of their own sites because they're really interested. I have one that's interested in someplace in Colorado, and so if you contact in some other location or site is willing to take you, and you make the contact and they say, yep, then you give me that information and I can work and get you into that site. We have different paperwork and legality stuff, so it could fall through, but I'm willing to work with you and get you different sites that you're interested in, and especially in the area of where you're working in. So you can't really necessarily pick, but you kind of sort of can a little bit do that.
She does the best that she can. Yeah.
I want to say too, whenever Professor Baird emails you and says, would you or would you like to? The best answer is yes. I learned the most in sites that I really wasn't that interested in, or, just was like, very laissez-faire about whether or not I learned that, I saw that, and I got there and it kind of opened up a whole another world for me. Some of those are bariatrics. I'm in Reno now. And just finding how even in general practice, having this more in tuned information will really benefit me. So say yes.
That also means that you get to experience other parts of Michigan for a longer period of time or shorter period of time. We've got a placement that's up in the UP that is for a shorter length of time. We also could put you permanently up in Marquette if you wanted to live up there for the length of the program. We've got a permanent site in Traverse City. I mean, how fun is that? Just think you got a little extra time, you can actually run by. You can see the line.
I mean, you might get the move, but let's say you do get this in UP, but you own a house in Kalamazoo. What would you do as far as your living expenses?
Well, if you were going to go up to Marquette the entire time, we would hope that you would make arrangements so you weren't paying double. So if you had a house, either you're going to rent it out, or else maybe that's not the best place for you at that time. So we do have students that do choose to go to the different places and live for a variety of reasons. And the only times that they have to come up here is when there's a mandatory in-seat class, which is generally at the beginning and the end of the semesters. So that would mean a minimum of 2 trips. We do have those labs at the beginning of fall semester. Dr. McClellan has got some labs, simulation labs with her classes as well. But all of your supervised practice would be done in that particular site. The site that we have that's temporary up in the UP, they actually provide housing and food for the 4 weeks that you're up there. It's in University School Food Service.
So for the temporary one, I mean, the temporary is just temporary, so it's just a few, 2 to 4 weeks, depending. What I do is I do send out a list of the sites that we place students, and I ask for you to list them in the order that you would like. So if we have, let's say, 5 satellite sites, I call them satellite sites because you live there the whole year, and that is to cut down on the travel. So you're not going up to do your clinical for 10 weeks and then coming back. So you live up in that area the whole time. So I do ask for volunteers to say what's your priority and go there, and then I ask for just a little bit about you and your living situation. Where do you have family? Because sometimes people say I can go up there for 10 weeks because I have family there. So I ask all those questions, and so when we're placing them, we try to give you your preferences. Again, we can't always guarantee, but we always look at that total picture of that and the checklist and information that I send out to you guys, which includes your area of interest and stuff. So that's almost in that same sheet where I ask, where do you have family? Where do you live? Are you willing to relocate? Prioritize the Grand Rapids, whatever. I mean, so I go through the whole list, and then you put those in the order. Usually I do get volunteers that go up to the satellite sites. There's some good hospitals up there, big hospitals up there. So I usually can get volunteers to go, and then sometimes I have people from that area that want to stay up in that area, so that they're actually placed where they live. So.
We have several that are living in areas not in Grand Rapids because they're still living at home.
Yeah.
And so that's been nice. We've got the one in Ohio.
One in Ohio, one in Standish.
One in Traverse City.
One in Traverse City.
With her back in the home. Yeah. So those are lots of opportunities. You can see we have a lot. We've got all kinds of different areas depending on your interest. We do have, if you look at your last semester on the back page, we have got that area of specialization, and that one is actually your pick. So if you wanted to get a little bit more under your belt, something that you hadn't really seen or you hadn't experienced, that is when Chris is pretty focused on giving you what that experience is. So
On that same sheet, I also ask, what are your top 5 area of specialization?
Right.
So I have an idea before I even start going in for that. I will make an addendum to my little area of specialization. If you told me your area of specialization was pediatric, clinical pediatrics, let's say, and I was able to get you into, with Crystal, with her, the pediatric, I might count that as your clinical versus your area of specialization and do a different thing, because I like to fill up the clinical rotations first before I fill up the area of specialization. So sometimes, and I really stress that, because it's like, well, I'm going to someplace I wasn't even thought about before, and I usually will say, would you like to do this? I could send you here. But know that sometimes with the area of specialization, if that's really strong and you've got a really strong, you might do another clinical one for your area of specialization, but I just like to throw that out there because my goal is to always make sure that I pack up definitely with the clinical aspects of that. So it's just, and you'll kind of understand that more when you get in and things, but.
Okay, a couple of good things that, just to note is that GVSU does not charge any out-of-state tuition, so if you're not a Michigan resident, it doesn't make any difference, you pay what Michigan residents pay, so there's no added cost. We also don't require GRE, so there's no cost for you to sit for that exam, and you don't need to go through DICAS. So whatever fees are associated with that, you don't have to do. Now, you might be wondering about, well, what, well, I still have to do it because I'm not sure if I apply to this program, I'm gonna get into this program. We know that. And so we take all of those applications that have piled up in the month of January and we go through interviewing and make offers before you have to get into the DICAS system. I know that it costs extra money. It also puts you in awkward situations that if you would go through a match and you would get a match and we come to you with an offer and then you've got to, what do I do because I accepted this. So we don't want to go there. That is actually not thought of very highly by internships that go through DICAS. It's just not fair. It's not really very ethical. So we do try to get those offers out to you, and once you make an acceptance, we do expect you to stick with it because it's kind of mutual. You say yes, we save you a seat. So kind of the handshake agreement, and then you're good until August when you start. So that whole thing is just a relief at that point. You know you've got your place set. There is, because of, again, a little extra wiggle room in your curriculum plan. Starting this fall, which will be the start of your cohort, we are going to be offering stipends for work in the charter schools. So we are looking at five students that will be by application. You'll be asked to do your school food service rotation at that school, and then after that, your stipend begins for about 10 hours a week. So you will be getting that extra intensive work in a school, a charter school. You'll be doing quality assurance projects. You'll be doing instructional events for maybe the sports teams, things on parent night. So you'll be deeply involved in that for an entire 2 semesters. So your stipend would be for fall semester and for winter semester. So
it would be your food service rotation
Yep.
in the fall and community 1 rotation in the winter.
right, so that community rotation would be more of what you would be doing in presentations in groups, whereas your quality improvement that might have to do with student satisfaction or some waste studies or whatever else we were looking at, that would be more food service related, and that would happen in the fall. The idea is by the end of your 2nd semester, you would have a deliverable in the form of a quality assurance study that's been implemented, evaluated, and analyzed. What that means is that you would have something that was actually publishable after that 2nd semester. It would be publishable in some of the DPG newsletters. It would be publishable in the student academy. So poster sessions at the state. So it would be something that would jumpstart your career as well, because you would already be able, working with your preceptor or your faculty member, to be able to craft something into something that would be published. The schools, we just met this morning with the state director of the school nutrition programs. And they're very excited to partner with us. So each of those 5 would be paired up with a data analyst from the state to provide some extra support. So I think it's a really great opportunity for all of you, and an added value, the ability to be able to learn in a more in-depth situation and also receive a stipend.
We also might have 2 other opportunities. It would be more of a job, kind of a rotation, but you do your practicum hours there, and then you just continue working on afterwards, but they start paying you almost right away. And
Those are camp situations.
Those are camp situations that we have, and then we have 1 diabetes camp that is not paid, but it's across on the east side of the state. But the other 2 that it was more difficult. We did it a little bit, but with the 4th semester, it was just too hard on the students to kind of coordinate that. But with the 5 semesters, we're gonna revisit that, so there might be a possibility of 2 other camp type situations where you could get paid and get your practicum hours.
Yeah, one of the camps, those of you that are from Grand Valley, you probably go past it all the time on Lake Michigan Drive, it's ICAS, you know what I'm talking about?
I worked there for the summer.
You did, okay, yeah, that
Did you work
becomes a
with Chris?
paid position.
I worked with Scott.
No, that's intern.
Oh, no.
No,
I
that
didn't.
wasn't, no, that was the year before.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I'm so, that tells you.
It's okay, these cohorts just.
I could just blur together.
All right, so, okay, so we've got that. We already mentioned that we have, because we have so many sites, we also have a lot of preceptors. All of them have, by now taken with several students. You know, I mentioned that Kristen was kind of an old hand at taking our students. So, Kristen, why do you take students?
Well, I guess for a couple of reasons. I just have always had the belief that we all become dietitians because somebody trained us, and so in order to have future dietitians, we need to give back and train the future dietitians as well. So I do it because I feel like I need to give back after I learned so much from my preceptors. And I also enjoy working with students. I feel like they bring a lot of new information to me that might be something I wouldn't be as exposed to, like the nutrition-focused physical exams. We were never trained on that when we were going through school when I was 12 years ago or so, when I was an intern. So to have that experience and to be able to learn along with my interns and then to be able to now teach them, it's really been beneficial, and I just enjoy teaching too. It's a mutually beneficial relationship, I guess.
Okay, our rotation opportunities, like I said, are very diverse, and I just listed a few of them. We do have a sports dietitian at GVSU, and she has taken students. GVSU also takes our students in the food service, the university food service. And you can see that we have some Indian Health down south. Where is that? Dowagiac. And that has been a really well-rated
Yeah, students
rotation.
love that rotation. It's a little bit, I try to place students that are closer to Kalamazoo in that area, but everybody who goes there absolutely loves it. And even when they're like, oh, I don't know, and then they go, that's my favorite one so far. So it's just different, and it's really unusual, and we see a lot of different things. So
I was talking to one of the students that had been through that rotation, and she said it was great. It was the only time she got to do home visits, and so that was kind of a plus for that. It just let her get to see the clients a little more up close and personal with that. So, yeah, that's great. You'll see that we have sites, several sites in Lansing with the Michigan Department of Education.
Well, Health and Human Services,
Okay.
the whole Department of Health and Human Services. So we send students at the state level to WIC, to the chronic disease, to the school nutrition, and we have students going this year into the school nutrition and to food safety for school nutrition. So, and then they have a teen nutrition, and I think one of our students in conjunction with the school nutrition will be going. So I usually pair them up because a lot of people are driving from here. So I've got 4 students going out once, but they're all in different rotations. So when I'm going to, everybody kind of carpool and because you got to park and drive down there and stuff. So, but it's a great rotation because we need more dietitians in the state level and involved with policies and at that higher level to really make good changes in legislation and policies and stuff. So it's a great rotation.
We heard this morning too that one of the reasons why they're excited about us having our students in charter schools is because they would like to see more R&D food service directors in the schools, in the districts. And they're very hard to find, so she's interested too in encouraging more understanding and actually a little more passion in the area of school food service.
The other one is Elizabeth Family Health Center.
Oh, I think I'm going to be talking about that, yes,
okay.
just coming up pretty quick. I won't talk about
We'll
that.
talk about different ones. So
Yeah,
I
well,
have it in front of me.
Okay, so I'll just talk about it. There is a slide, because this is relatively new, but I know that Professor Baird has got a slide tucked in there about the Family Health Center. Okay, so the Family Health Center is a nurse nurse-run clinic. The nurse, the college,
there.
Kirkhoff College of Nursing, it runs that, so it is nurse-run. And we started providing nutrition visits, so outpatient visits. We have our own little room at the clinic, and we're there every single Wednesday, and they make the appointments for us. And we see a variety of people at the Family Health Center. There is no charge, which is a huge bonus for a lot of the clients that we see. Some of them are already patients of the health center. We're also going to be pulling in from a pediatrician some of his referrals on overweight children and obese children that he's going to be starting to send.
I just sent the referral system.
Yeah, sometime in the next probably month or so, we'll be getting those as well. So our Wednesdays start at 10 and end at 6 at the clinic, and you have a faculty embedded with you. Professor Beard takes most of those, but all of us get a little turn. It's really interesting for all of us to be there as well and to really see what's going on. But very good experience for all of you to be able to work with clients that are very diverse.
When you do outpatient rotations with your preceptors, many times you can't necessarily do the specific education. Now it depends on the site, because you can do some, but a lot of sites it's more observation that has to do with insurance. So what's nice about the Family Health Center is that you guys lead the discussions. I usually pair you up, but sometimes there might be just one person, and it's you lead it. You fill out the MNT note that gets scanned into the medical record, so it's not like, oh, it's just practice and the note doesn't count. Yeah, the note counts because it gets scanned in. So it can't be written in pencil. I had to remind a few students that you have to write it in ink. No, it's faculty led, but it's student driven. So we sit there and try to keep our mouth shut. So I've gotten much better over the year, keeping my mouth shut. But we're there in case there's questions and stuff. And you figure out their needs, you figure out their game plan of what you want to do, and then once the patient comes in, maybe it's a completely turnaround and it's something different the patient wants to cover, and you just start covering it from there. But it's a great experience and you do it about 3 times over the year, 3 to 4 times.
Right, and so you do have an instructor in the room with you. Generally, we stay fairly mute. If you were to go wrong turn at some point, we pull back a little bit and clarify. And we have handouts that have been developed by students. Sometimes we have patients that are no-show, clients don't show. A lot of times when you're not paying for something, if I go, it's fine. If I don't, well, it's okay too. But we divert time into more of brushing up on some of our handouts and tweaking a few things, finishing up notes, just general conversation with whatever faculty member is there. So it's a great experience, and I think that makes our program fairly unique as well. Some schools do have health centers, but being able to have this much access to the clients, I think, is pretty special. The other thing I didn't mention about unique rotations is that we do have a farm. We have a sustainable agriculture program here at GVSU. There is a farm that is in Allendale. It's kind of tucked towards, what side of campus? Is that south? Maybe southwest part of campus. And so I've been involved in the project. I'm working with them on a grant with a farm, and really interested in implementing a 2-week rotation in agriculture. So looking at pulling some things that the academy already has available for that. So we'll have to decide. It will need to be during the growing season, so late summer, early fall would be the best time for that. We also do have a farmer's market at GVSU on Wednesdays where the farm sells some of their produce. No one has ever done any research on that farmer's market. I do food demos out there 3 times during the summer, and it's always interesting to see who uses it because they are probably 99.9% female, almost all staff, so we're not drawing people from neighborhoods, but no one's really ever looked at why do you shop here? Is it just convenience? What else would you like to see? So I think that market is just ripe too for just a little bit of a survey and finding out what people are doing with that, or maybe why they're not using it for people that don't know. So the simulation is really Dr. McClellan's bailiwick, and so she again has got research going in that area. What she's got to show you today hopefully will be impressive, awesome. But even in addition to that, our simulation labs are spread out a little bit in this building. But if you look back in that that direction, maybe peeking around the whiteboard a little bit, you see a building going up, and that building is going to be attached to this building, and the whole simulation lab is moving in total into the new building, and they're expanding it even further. You might have heard about 3D printing. 3D printing has been used like for valve replacements, but anyway, we're getting that system over in the new simulation lab, as well as we're getting this table that can be used for anatomy. It's some kind of, you don't need to have skeletons anymore, you know, the ones that hang on the kind of hook or the bones. So this is all done again in 3D on some big special table. So students will be able to come in and brush up. For some of you who won't be taking anatomy, but for like with our physician assistance program and maybe for PT, you know, some of that is really important. So that it was another big, really high-tech piece that's being added to the new sim lab. That building will open in 2021. On the top floor, the 5th floor, is going to be a commercial kitchen. Right now, Grand Valley does not have a kitchen. The food classes in hospitality management are held at the golf course. So you can imagine that the kitchen isn't great for that. And we use the Kent ISD, Independent School District kitchen, and this will be the last year this fall that we will be using that kitchen. It's a great kitchen. It's just up the East Belt line. It takes about 6 minutes to get there, so it's close, but we are really looking forward to being able to have our own kitchen. I also just was awarded a Cooking Matters pilot, and so we are going to start to take that in and hopefully implement some of that in our new building as well. So looking forward to having some more access and more opportunities with that. All right, so we talked about the rotation sites, the seminar in the last semester, and Professor Ford had mentioned that if you look, it's called CD 689. It's a 1-credit class, and that gets you ready to take the registration exam. Now, we're not saying it's the end all, like you can take it and then go 2 months later and sit for the exam, but it gives you a lot of testing techniques as well as a lot of practice in your testing. It also goes over wrong answers and gives you the right ones, and then gives you the rationale on why that answer is right. So it is just it's held over the course of 3 days, right at the end of the semester, right before you graduate, so that you do have some study techniques. Also do a little bit with resume building or interviewing, so getting you ready for career opportunities as well. We use this Blackboard as our program management system, and whenever some outsider might send job openings, I post them always. So right now, the graduating cohort, there's probably been 3 or 4 that have just come in the last week or so. So we do get some of those, and I always pass those back out for you too. So we do have a little bit of that, and probably getting more as people recognize that we're able to put students out that are graduates and then soon to be RDNs. One other thing that I should mention that we did have as a change this year is that we were accredited for 24 slots for our graduate program. 24 is a pretty big program. If you look around, then that number's pretty impressive. Well, we were allowed to expand, so we will have 27 spots to fill for this next cohort. And I think that's good news for all of you, because our acceptance rate will probably be close to 60%. So if you're serious about coming, this is a good year for you to get your paperwork in and get looked at early and decide whether or not this is a good place. We do require for graduate school a GPA of a minimum of 3.0. So that's graduate school requirements. Less than that, and it would be very difficult. We'd have to go with a probation period and all of that. So right now, the GPA for the cohort that Bettina is a part of has an average of a 3.41 on admission. Most of our students do very well in the master's program. This year we have 6 students who will be getting honor cords, meaning that they had a grade point average of a 3.95 or above. That's pretty incredible. One of them is graduating with a 4.0. So students do well. I think part of it is that those classes that maybe were a little more difficult undergrad, or that were kind of pulling you down or weren't your areas of interest, those are gone. So right now what you've got are things that hopefully you're passionate about. This is your career. all these classes go to help you build your skills as a dietitian. And then also, you did see on there that there's a project class, or like Bettina had mentioned, she's doing a thesis. And so that is individual research that's done with your advisor. So the advisors, at this point, is Professor Ford, Dr. McQuillan, and myself. We just divide up alphabetical. So I think Dr. McQuillan has the first part of the alphabet, I have the middle, and Professor Ford has the end of the alphabet. And so that's how we do that. So you work with your advisor. You also have a preceptor that serves as kind of a gatekeeper to let you into the facilities on where you might want to be doing your research. And we have this research day, which is coming up on the 6th of December, where you present your poster, your research poster, and then we have what I call an afterglow. Afterwards, we have a little reception, appetizers, and maybe something that bubbles, like juice, of course. And so the next day is your graduation day. So we make that weekend, hopefully pretty special. What you've got in front of you, I just had 4 of them, I just kind of spread them around, are just facts about GVSU. So those of you who are students here already, you probably know all of this. They're just some things that are mentionable. Several times that we've hit national listings of universities ranked high in several areas. We have buildings that are sustainable, so we've gotten several LEED certificates on our buildings. Our office across the street, that building just opened a year ago, May. Yeah, we moved in May. And so we actually look at the other side of the building, not at the highway. But if you see the classrooms up on the fourth floor, which is the top floor, you see all the glass, and you see the chairs there. There's no shades down. That is our classroom that we use most of the time. So sometimes we put the shades down because the sun's out and it glares on the slides, but it's a great place for a class. Lots to look at besides learning. All right, and so now I want to open it up to any questions that you have, because that's what you're here for. So what didn't I talk about that you'd like to know?
Are there any entrance exams, like when you start?
We do have prerequisites for people that are coming in with a non-dietetics undergraduate. We don't require that you have a dietetics undergraduate because our program is accredited in and of itself, and we provide your verification statement. But if I have someone coming in with an undergrad of music and they're trying to get into graduate school in dietetics, you can see that we would need to have a number of prerequisites met. So that's why with Allied Health Science or BMS, if you're coming from that, you had your major courses, and then we had a few add-ons in the food area so that you are all coming in pretty much on the same level. And where it's noticed that you might need a little bit of work in some of the more typical language that other people might have had undergrad, professors are able to really fill that gap quickly for you.
I'd like to mention the Belize, that we do have an international rotation. If you're interested in going to Belize, it can be faculty led if we have enough students that are interested. If not, you can go on your own, but you have up to 6 weeks, but generally 4 is a good amount of weeks where you can also pick. So if you wanted to go, if you speak German and wanted to go to Germany, we would work with the International Center and arrange that time. If you're interested in Belize, if we get 8 students that are interested, it can be faculty led. It's actually pretty awesome. There's pictures up there. When we went for a site visit, we actually stay at a kind of resort area part of thing, but we work some in the hospital and some with the community workers. And we'd be working with a really great group called Cella that would actually help and be our contact there to help us out and kind of help guide us and give some of the lectures and stuff. So that's with the upcoming. For your class, it would be probably in winter then? Will you switch it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably winter, your last semester. It would be your area specialization.
One of the best times to go to Belize. Because right now we were
October.
going in
First of July.
Yeah.
But then,
That's
but
not
then
a great time.
this time, if we get it, it would be in October, it's not September, October.
Yeah.
Right, for now, for the quote, because it's your area specialization, which is one of your last courses. So it would be in the winter. But that's an option, like I said, whether you wanted to go faculty led or if you had someplace where you want to go, and there's some paperwork and additional costs for that, obviously, because it's in addition to you're going someplace else. But we would work with our international center if you're going on your own for the sites and the preceptors and stuff.
And you'll notice from the card that you got in front of you that the International Center does have over 4,000 international placements. The problem has been not necessarily the interest from the last two cohorts, but the cost. The cost of the program is around $4,000. That involves your airfare, covers your airfare, covers all your food, covers your transportation, covers a little bit of eating out and a little bit of sightseeing. But we know that graduate tuition is not cheap, and you're already coming out, maybe a lot of you right from undergrad programs as well. So if you are interested in that, the time to really think about it and think about saving and how you might cover that would be soon after you got accepted. Because we would love to be able to go.
There are some scholarships and funds that GDSU can provide, a little bit less for graduate students, but there is some, and depending on the time of year too, but there are some other options, and we have the student organization that they get together and start doing some kind of.
Right. The GSA, Graduate Student Association, does allow for graduate students to start their own like clubs. And so we do have one for the graduate students. And I was at a program director's meeting just 2 weeks ago, and they have raised the amount of money that they're able to give to the student organizations. So upon a request that's put in for finance, they will pay up to $7,500 to the club per year. So that, in addition to some fundraising work, might go a ways to augment international study. Again, because of time, we have interest in the student club in the fall semester because there seems to be a little bit more time, and then it gets so crazy that we don't have any events that generally are routine that happen after that. So that's an area that I'd really like to see grow a little bit and become more active because the money is there, $700 per person, but as a club, $7,500. So it's a really nice advantage. All right, more questions from all of you. Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So we do a rotation per semester, and then we're taking a combination of either the lab practice or online courses at the same time?
Yes. Oh, you're talking about like in 516, CD 516. Because CD 516 is a culinary class which has 5 labs associated with it. So we are in Grand Rapids for 5 consecutive Tuesdays. After that, the class continues, but it's all online. So people generally hang out in Grand Rapids until the end of September, and then you don't start your rotation anyway until October. So there's no driving back and forth. So then after you finish that, then you go wherever you're gonna go, and that's when you start your supervised practice for that semester. And your class will continue, but it will be online.
Use the blackboard or?
Yep, it's Blackboard.
Okay, so for the farm, you said that's something that's new and that's you're trying to implement into the program?
Yes,
as
the
well?
farm is not new. The farm is about 10 years old. But the academy has come out with a 2-week rotation curriculum for students as interested in agriculture. So a lot of that is doing things at the farm, but it's also going out and seeing other farms for comparison. This farm is really set up as a sustainable agriculture project. It is not set up to feed Grand Valley State University. There are other schools who actually have farms. I was in Philadelphia and I went to a hospital that had a farm, and they were actually using all of that food for their clients coming in for outpatient visits. They were sending bags of that home. So right now we're not at that point, nor do I understand that that's necessarily the mission, but it is an educational place. They were doing, a couple of professors that got a grant, and they had planted some teff. I don't know if you've heard of teff. Teff is an Ethiopian grain. It is very, very nutritious and very underused in the States. And so they were trying to use a couple of varieties to see what would happen if we started growing it here in Grand Rapids. So it is, it's a farm that has got some hoop houses. We do have year-round agriculture going on there. And so part of it will be done right there on the farm, the other part will be done in other farms around the Grand Rapids area.
Is it yielding?
Yes, we do have product that goes to the farmer's market, and right now the biggest seller is, can you guess? What's the biggest seller at the farmer's market from our sustainable agriculture farm? No. No. I'll tell you. Flowers.
Oh.
Go figure.
Go figure.
Beautiful. He does a great job.
Yeah.
How about,
Everybody needs some flowers.
how about the Ethiopian grain? Is that?
Oh, I don't know about that. I had asked about that the last time I was out before the freeze, and they were out measuring still because it hadn't been hit. But I don't know how, if it's yielding, how high it ever got, I have no idea what the difference was between the hybrids that they put out, so I don't know.
But we can also look at some of these gardens for your rotations because they fit into different ones. We also have the United Dairy Council where we can send you there for rotations. They have various things that they look at different aspects, whether it's on the farm and cows or something more for their presentations. And we also have one with Kalamazoo and their culinary program, and sustainable, and they're kind of the gardens and stuff that they grow that we have. So we have some really kind of different unique rotations.
And the farm in Allendale also does have herbs, and so there has been some work on some of the herbal medicines coming out of that garden. They have a drying system, a solar run drying system for some herbs. So lots of little different things with that. Yes.
What are some common areas of specialization that students do?
Professor Barrett, answer that.
Let's see, I've had them do sports nutrition. I've had them do, one was the culinary, like the food as medicine kind of a thing. I've had some do the clinical. I've sent some to the renal.
Cardiac rehab.
Cardiac rehab, thank you.
So you can chime in here. You've got a lot of specialization where you take our students.
Yeah. Pediatrics. Healthy
Intensive
weight.
feeding.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the DeVos, the feeding clinic, for there. Diabetes, yeah, diabetes. I have one, it's through Metro, and you actually work with the nurse, with the outpatient, with the insulin and kind of working on that aspect and the nutrition. She's a CDE. So, what else? It just really can be anything. Really, Gordon's, I've had some that wanted to go to Gordon's food service because they were more interested in marketing. We've had some that have gone to Nestle's, the Gerber Nestle, like the company up there. We've had do that before.
They actually hired her.
Had two. Yeah. So, yeah.
Somebody else had their hand up on the side of that.
Oh, and mine question was on international stuff again.
Yeah.
Are you required to know the language, or can you still go if you don't, or just
Well,
know the sentences?
Yeah, Belize is an English-speaking country. And the reason for that, if you go back and look at the history, it was under British rule until like the 50s, so it hasn't been its own country for, a long, long time. So that's why English is taught in the schools. And, but what you also find is a lot of Spanish speakers there as well as some other dialects, Mayan, some other dialects. But everybody does learn English in school.
Okay. But we do encourage, like, let's say you wanted to go to Germany and you were kind of know some words and stuff. You're not going to get the full experience of doing some of the counseling and stuff that you're going to do if you don't really know the language. So we wouldn't necessarily say you can't, but it's going to be harder to get really a good experience if you don't really speak the language. So we try to gear you towards either where you're fluent in or someplace that has English as a major part of the language.
Yeah, and with those ones out of the International Center, it's clear whether or not you need to know the language for what you're doing. But there are a lot of countries that do have language, English requirements while the kids are still in school. I was in Greece about a month or so ago, and in order to graduate from high school, you have to pass an English test. So it's more and more common. I have a student in the Honors College who's taking Chinese as a minor, and someone said, why are you taking Chinese as a minor? And she just rattled off how many millions of people she'd be able to converse with if she knew English and Chinese.
Then my other question, is there a minimum of weeks that you have to go for? You said 4 to 6, or can you do 2, or?
You could do shorter.
Okay.
You definitely can do shorter, and with that one, it would be specifically working with the International Center and myself and coming up with a rotation and stuff, but you can definitely do shorter.
You
The
know,
one in Belize, we have that for 4
competencies.
weeks, yeah.
Right, that would be geared towards that time
Yeah,
period.
yeah.
So we wouldn't expect you to do 6 weeks of work in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm not going to school here, but what percentage of like students find employment within 3 to 6 months after they graduate?
Well, you have to remember that we can't put 27 students out in Grand Rapids and expect them all to get employment. So our students do come from all over, even though you think Grand Valley is a regional university. We have currently students from California, we've got 2 from Vermont, we've got 2 from Pennsylvania. So we do have them from lots of areas. We do have a student from India this year who will be graduating as well. So a lot of those will go back and find jobs in the area where their families are. In Grand Rapids, and you can correct me if you're wrong, it seems like a lot of times the students land up with maybe a PRN position first or a part-time position, which then as positions open up, they apply for, and a lot of times are successful in getting picked up and hired. So I think it depends on where it is that you're interested in going. There's a finite number of positions, but we have a lot of community organizations in Grand Rapids as well, and a lot of those are also food related. So,
But Crystal does a lot of, you said that a lot of times you look at the per diem, your per diem people first, correct, if they're interested in.
Especially with a health system that like we work for, Spectrum, there's so many different job opportunities. And if you do your clinical rotation with us and you do well, which a lot of the interns from GVSU do, then it gives you a greater opportunity to be looked at for positions with Spectrum, because there's so many opportunities throughout the whole area in West Michigan. Obviously it's not guaranteed, but if you do well and your preceptors can put a good word in for you, it helps.
I had one site that wanted to know about the verification system and when you could sit for the exam and stuff, because they were interested in possibly, the student didn't even know that, about hiring them, looking for a job for them, so because they really like them. And then I know we've had a couple that in the Kalamazoo area that have taken full-time jobs. So it really just depends on what's available, and I can tell you sometimes it's kind of hard and you have to maybe go look for a per diem, and other times there's several that are available. And so sometimes it's just cyclic, and it depends on the time and whether you're willing to move, because I will tell you, if you're willing to move, you're going to find a job. If you're kind of stuck to the area, then it might be a little bit trickier, and then it's just going to depend on the cycle and whether there's a lot open, or just you might have to start with a per diem or a community, or look at a different opportunity and stuff within the dietetics field.
I think one thing that came out that I heard with Krista, and we tell you that too, is that every one of your supervised rotations is really a job interview. You need to put your best foot forward every day that you're out there. You need to be on time, you need to dress well, you need to, ask questions, but not too many questions. I mean, be independent, but not too independent. It's all of that goes into, one of your preceptors putting in a good word. God, that person was just fabulous to work with. So that definitely plays a big role anywhere, in any kind of job, just having the right connections. And there is a fair amount of networking that goes on too with State Dietetic Association and the district. So lots of opportunities for you to meet people and interact. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that actually, because you have the CD 505, which is the policy. So do you work with the Dietetics Academy and do any advocacy work with them, or legislative?
Yes.
Well, we
do.
Yeah,
once you, but now it's Dr. McCollum's
that
class.
class is one of the ones that doesn't have labs, so it's mainly online, and students are in their supervised practice the whole time. So I don't have any kind of hands-on working with legislators projects, but I know that there's some of that advocacy sprinkled throughout our entire program, and I think that when our students graduate, they are all really strong advocates for dietitians, and also can give examples of ways dietitians can serve in different areas of practice just because of the number of supervised practice sites that we have. We do have you usually in your first semester, it has been traditionally, attend legislative day. If you're interested in getting involved with the academy, Dr. Vogelzing is really involved with the academy in all different has had all different kinds of roles. Dietitians of West Michigan, you're looking at the two presidents, current and future president, so they can help you with networking with dietitians all over the area. And then I was going to say before we were talking about job prospects, I think the fact that our program does offer you the opportunity to meet a lot of different preceptors in different areas of practice throughout the whole time that you're in the program, that in itself gives you an advantage because then you can go back to all of those people who you know and who have worked with you and contact them, or they may reach out to you and they have a job opening. And one thing we have been talking about in the health policy class is that just the way that healthcare is moving towards more preventative care and more bundled payments for groups of providers, we should be opening up even more opportunities for dietitians and healthcare teams. So I think it's a bright future, good outlook, and especially coming out with a completed Master of Science degree. As we look forward, in 4 more years, you won't even be able to sit for the RD exam without a master's degree. So I think coming out and being able to say to the employer, hey, this isn't something I'm going to have to work on getting to kind of keep up with the new graduates. I already have my master's degree finished, and you can talk about your individual research that you've done and all these other kinds of things that can set you apart from somebody who is at the bachelor's level or just did a standalone internship.
Well, and because Dr. McClellan teaches the sim lab with the nutrition focus, you guys are just hands down just really lucky. You learn that, you learn it with standardized patients, you place NG tubes and mannequins, you work with speech, you do a lot of different things that I think sets you apart from a lot of the other students that are coming up from like a straight internship where you don't have that opportunity to practice. So I think between that, the legislative day, and some of the interprofessional workshops, the GVSU Health Center, the sim lab, I mean, there's just a lot of opportunities here to really gain your experience.
Why don't we let you go on your tour? And we'll hang around here, so if any questions come up in your brain while you're out walking, we'll be happy to answer them over here. Before we let all of them leave, would you like to talk about anything else? Crystal, from your perspective, sitting in the seat that you do, is there any words of wisdom you want to share with these folks?
I think much that wasn't covered. I think it's always good to, like you were mentioning, to network and let people know what you're interested in. Just talk about it with the people that you're working with and for neighbors at your particular sites and stuff, just so that they know what your long-term goals are and things. So build those connections.
And the team before you, is there anything else you want to share as a graduating student?
I think I appreciated the program here. You come on board here with a unique set of faculty that really work as a team, I think really well to kind of push you and pull you, whichever is needed through the program. I think without their support, there are a lot of things I wouldn't have accomplished. You know, there are barriers that happen out there that we don't have control of, but to have a team of advocates working behind you and as hard as these ladies do, I think is unique, and I appreciated that about this program.
All right, so we want to do about half and half, so if we split the table,
Sure.
All right.